Hi. Tonight, we're going to continue our discussion about the different pillars from the Book of Joy. And as you know, this has become my go-to book whenever I'm feeling down or when I just need a little pick-me-up or just when I like to check out what the Dalai Lama thinks or what Desmond Tutu thinks about all of these different pillars. So tonight we're going to talk about pillar 3, which is humor. And I love this one. This is, well, they're all great, but this one I think it's very appropriate right now. Even though we're slowly seeing things opening up and they're letting go a little bit of the mandate for those of us that have been vaccinated with our masks and things, we still honor where the masks are being asked to be worn. And we're still a little nervous about, can we get the virus anyway? And it's just taking us longer, I think. It's taking me longer to get back into the groove. I think the new normal is going to be quite some time before we feel really comfortable, before we start hugging and shaking hands with people other than our family and making some really good eye contact, having some really good conversation. It's really pretty sad when you think about how quickly we lost our social skills over all of this stuff. And it is time to bring back the humor and even to think about some of the things that were kind of funny or that we could laugh at over the course of the last year. But because it's still a little scary, we really do want to look at reaching out to people, being kind, and to try and bring some humor into our life again. And Desmond Tutu says, which is just one of the profound, I mean, he's made many, but one of his profound statements is, if you start looking for the humor in life, you will find it. I'm going to repeat that because it's a writer downer. If you start looking for the humor in life, you will find it. And as I said earlier, watching the news isn't one way to find humor. Watching America's Funniest Home Videos, maybe, if you enjoy watching little kids. And I'm dating myself, but there used to be a show on TV, Kids Say the Darndest Things, and I heard that's coming back because it was just so much fun. And we just really need to be laughing at silly things. And the book is really stresses what good friends Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama are. And they're always having a good time and they're laughing throughout the book, despite all the troubles that they've gone through. But they are working really hard to find humor in things. And they laugh at each other and they point silly things out, but they also laugh at themselves, which I think is being a really big person, very humble, but being very real. Desmond Tutu pokes fun of his nose, and the Dalai Lama pokes fun of his English. And then they've given each other permission to point things out. And, you know, because they have such a good relationship, and as Stephen Covey says in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, if you have a good relationship with someone, if you have enough points in their bank account, you can say things that other people may take as a put down or whatever. But when you're really good friends, it's not put down at all because you have such great trust with each other. But they're always laughing throughout the book, and I just think it's just a really fun thing. And what strikes me the most is how we really have to find humor in all kinds of things. And rather than getting mad at someone if they laugh about something you do, I think we really need to look at where's it coming from, and if it's coming out of love, we should laugh along with them. I have an example. This is actually a Coeur d'Alene example, and Kathy and some of you may actually remember this or remember the people. Dennis Nitschke and I and Lynn Vossler, we're all out in Coeur d'Alene working with Cabela's, and we were traveling a lot. We were traveling out there a lot and traveling all over the US, wherever Cabela's was opening up stores and building just wonderful relationships with the colleges so that the folks working in customer service or whatever could get training and get credit for that training. So I wrote a lot of their curriculum. And Dennis is 6 feet 7 inches tall. I'm 5 feet 1 inch tall. And so I always, when somebody would take a picture of us or whatever, I never liked to look at those pictures because I was so short. And I never saw myself as being small or tiny. But when I would see myself next to Dennis, I would just chuckle because I thought, there's really nothing either one of us can do about it. And I was always joke and I would say, Dennis, when we're on stage together, why don't you sit down so that I don't look so tiny? And we would always joke about that. He also would joke when I traveled, just because of the chaos and in the airports, and it was in the day when there were just gobs of people pushing and shoving, and you were afraid you were going to be late to get to your gate. When I traveled with Dennis, he of course would do the driving. He would rent the car most of the time, and he didn't want to be at the airport too early, and I wanted to be at the airport extra early, and then I could eat breakfast or read a good book or peruse the gift shops, because then I was there and I didn't want to worry about traffic or whatever. But I would get focused and I would go to our gate, our destination, and I wouldn't look back. And one time, Dennis and Lynn were kind of talking about how I just get in the zone and I just go. And, I have short little legs, but I would always beat them. And Dennis said one time to Lynn, let's just stop and see how long it takes Connie to realize that she didn't catch up to us. And I was, 20, 30 yards down, just pulling my little thing, getting to the gate so that I could relax. And I turned around and they were nowhere to be found. And I'm like, oh, where did I lose them? What's up? And then all of a sudden I saw them coming and they were just laughing like crazy. And when they caught up to me, I'm like, what's so funny? And they said, well, you're always on such a mission to get right where you want to go. And you don't even think about anybody else or whatever. And we really had a good time with that. And I always, to this day, think about Dennis could have outpaced me in a minute, but I was always on a mission and I just wanted to get to my gate to make sure I was there. And so we still joke about that. Another thing, an example, is where we could get mad about something and instead laugh about it. And I thought about this the other day when I was thinking about humor. Driving along on a freeway, or it wasn't even a freeway, it was just a 2-lane highway. We have lots of those in Wisconsin. We were on our way to our cottage, which is 3.5 hours north of where we live. And it was a Sunday afternoon and people were in a hurry to get home. And we weren't in any big hurry because, we could just get home when we got home. And I was driving. It was my turn to drive and my husband was taking a little nap, and people were just coming up to me, and so the speed limit's 55 and I was going about, I think maybe 60, 67, 68, something like that, which is as fast as I'll go. I used to work with police officers. They always said, if you go 12 miles over the speed limit, they're usually not going to stop you, unless it's of course in a school zone or something like that. But otherwise, don't go more than 10 to 12 miles over the speed limit, unless you're on a 4-lane highway and whatever. And so it was a 55. So I was going about 68 and these cars were just whipping past me. And, there's just a little spot where you can pass and people were, one guy especially was just passing cars. He had a hot little Mustang or something. And just in such a hurry. And, part of me thought, I could, because he kind of put us in danger because he was passing where he shouldn't have been passing and other cars were coming and whatever. We all had to slam on the brakes to let him get in. And I thought, I could be really angry at this person. And I thought, but I'll just bet you $5 when we get up to the next little town where there's a stop sign, we're all going to be in line together. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, I was right behind him and I wanted to beep and wave. And I thought, well, you don't do that. But it just made me chuckle that, the poor guy was in such a hurry. He was passing all these cars, and yet I was going 60, whatever, 8, and I was right behind him at the stop sign. And I thought, that's just humor versus road rage. And I feel like sometimes we just have to sit back and allow that to happen, because otherwise we can get our bee in a bonnet, as my friend Stephanie used to say. And that doesn't help anyone. So I think we should try and look for the humor in things. So in the book, they talked about humor, laughter, and the Dalai Lama says joking is much better. Laugh at yourself and don't be so pompous and serious. If you start looking for the humor in life, you'll find it. You will stop asking, why me? And start recognizing that life happens to all of us. Some of the questions I'd like to ask you, do you think having a sense of humor is a gift? And how is that? I think there are some people that would rather look at the glass as half empty than half full. Again, my friend Dennis would say, eyebrows down or eyebrows up. And does it lay the groundwork for accepting if you can be more humorous? And do you have, how have you seen humor influence the outcome of a troublesome situation? So what I'd like you to do is post in our Facebook group just a piece of something that you thought could be a serious situation and you could laugh about it in the end, because we all need to have that. Because it develops, laughing at ourselves develops humor, as I said earlier. And it's like something that's spontaneous and natural. We don't think it can be cultivated, but the ability to laugh at ourselves and see the rich ironies and funny realities in our lives is actually like perspective, something that we can learn with practice over time. Another thing that would happen when I would travel to other states, and I was lucky enough to travel all over, and some in Europe, people would laugh at how my Midwest accent of how I would say rough. And they would laugh and say, rough, is that a dog? And I'd say, no, that's what's on top of our condos or on top of our buildings. It's a roof. And they would say, no, it's a roof. And so the difference between rough and roof, I could take that personally. I could say, oh, I'm just from the Midwest. People will poke fun of me. Or I can say, it is kind of funny. And I'll just use it in my speeches and I'll laugh at myself. And that's pretty insignificant when you think about it. But what I'd like you to do is think of one of your limitations, your faults, or what we would call foibles. And just think about something that's actually quite funny about yourself when you can put it into perspective. And like I said earlier, the Dalai Lama is always laughing at his English. That's not his first language. It's not his only language for sure. But he laughs at his English. And there are many questions or many English words that he doesn't understand. So he always has to ask either Desmond Tutu or this Douglas Abrams in the book, what does that mean? And then he laughs at himself because he doesn't understand it. But just laugh at yourself. It makes life so much easier. It's a whole lot like they all build on each other. Get a perspective, have some humility, and laugh at yourself. It's just a good thing. And try really hard to laugh at life. The next time that we're delayed or something just doesn't go our way, try to be amused by the situation rather than getting angry or outraged. Like I said with the car and the stop sign. You'll notice how your amusements puts others at ease and can often smooth the situation. When you encounter certain ironies in your day-to-day life, try to see the humor. And so this is a short little discussion tonight, but try to see the humor in things. Post in the Facebook group of a time that you've laughed at yourself or a time that you can laugh at with someone else. and find some good ways to find some humor in life. There's a great movie that's just come out with Billy Crystal. It's called Here Today. It's really funny, and there's some sad things. He's older, of course, and in the movie he has dementia, and he finds a great dear friend to help him um, with his in his as his dementia progresses. And he does make amends with his family and things, but it's just hilarious. I took our two neighbor ladies that live in our condo association. They're both in their late 80s, and I took them to the movie and we went out to dinner, and it was just wonderful to hear them giggle. And then we talked and they compared things. They're both widows. So one lost her husband to Alzheimer's and the other one to cancer. And I asked them both before we went if it was okay that we would go to that movie, because I knew it might, bring back some memories. But they both said no, they really needed to get out. They didn't like to drive to the city where the theaters open, and we had to wear masks, and I bought tickets ahead online to make sure that the three of us could sit together, and we've all had our vaccination. So it was just a really good time. And then we went out and had a really nice dinner together and just giggled and talked about the movie. And both of them said it's so much fun to go to a movie when you can process it after. And again, I was very grateful for the fact that I do have a spouse. And when we go to a movie together, we can talk about it. They both have to go home to empty homes. And so I'm going to make that to be a habit, that maybe once a month we can go out to a movie. That is, if we can find a movie that is PG, or movies that they would enjoy. But it was just a fun night, and we just laughed, and that belly laugh was just so great. One lady called me the next day and said that she just slept so good because she got out, had a nice dinner, and had fun with friends. So that was very heartwarming. So have a good night, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.